The storm hit Haven's Edge just after sunset. Rain pounded against the windows of Jake Morrison's aid station, while thunder rolled across the dark sky. He sat at his desk reviewing supply lists by lamplight. The small medical facility was quiet, located far from the main colony settlement. Most nights, Jake enjoyed the solitude. A bright flash lit up the room. Jake looked up, expecting lightning. Instead, he saw something burning as it streaked across the sky. The object was too large and moved too deliberately to be a meteor. It disappeared behind the western hills, followed seconds later by a distant boom that shook the building. Jake grabbed his emergency kit and rain jacket. Something had crashed, and someone might need help. He climbed into his old terrain vehicle and drove toward the impact site. The rough path wound through rocky hills and sparse vegetation. Rain made the ground slippery, but Jake pushed forward. After 20 minutes, he found the crash site. Pieces of twisted metal were scattered across a wide area. Some parts were still glowing red from heat. The main section of what looked like a spacecraft had plowed through dirt and stone, leaving a deep trench. Jake parked and approached carefully, scanning for signs of life. The ship's design was unlike anything he had seen before. Smooth curves mixed with sharp angles, and the metal had a strange purple shimmer even in the darkness. Jake called out, but only the storm answered. He moved closer, using his flashlight to peer through a torn opening in the hull. Inside, he found her. She was lying in a pool of silver-blue liquid that Jake realized was blood. Her body was humanoid, but clearly alien. Her skin was pale violet, and her hair was pure white, matted with blood. Strange markings covered her arms and face. She wore armor that had been cracked and broken in multiple places. Her breathing was shallow and irregular. Jake's medical training took over. He checked for a pulse and found one, though it beat in an odd rhythm. Her wounds were severe. Deep cuts covered her torso and legs. One arm was bent at a wrong angle. Without treatment, she would die within hours. He couldn't move her safely in the storm, and the colony hospital was too far away. Jake made a decision. He would bring her to his station and do what he could. He carefully lifted her, surprised by how light she felt, despite her height. She didn't wake as he carried her through the rain to his vehicle. Back at the station, Jake laid her on his examination table. He cut away the damaged armor, revealing more injuries. Her anatomy was similar enough to human that he could work with it, but different enough to make him nervous. He cleaned the wounds first, watching as the silver-blue blood slowly stopped flowing. The broken arm needed to be set. Jake gave her an injection of local anesthetic, hoping her biology would respond to it. She moaned softly but didn't wake. He carefully realigned the bone and applied a splint. Next came the deep lacerations. Jake stitched them closed, working through the night. By dawn, the storm had passed. Jake had done everything he could. The alien woman was stable, breathing easier now. He had connected her to a monitoring system that tracked her vitals. The readings were strange but consistent. She was alive. Jake cleaned up the blood and disposed of the damaged armor pieces. He noticed symbols etched into the armor that might be writing. The craftsmanship was incredible. Whatever this woman was, she had access to advanced technology. He found weapons, too, devices that looked dangerous, even though he didn't understand how they worked. He locked them in a storage cabinet. The woman slept for 3 days. Jake stayed close, checking on her constantly. He changed her bandages and adjusted the splint. Her wounds were healing faster than human injuries would, which relieved him. On the 4th day, her eyes opened. They were golden, with vertical pupils like a cat. She looked at him with confusion and pain. Jake raised his hand slowly to show he meant no harm. She tried to speak, but the words were in a language he didn't recognize. The sounds were melodic, but completely foreign. Jake pointed to himself. "Jake," he said slowly. Then he pointed to her with a questioning expression. She studied him for a long moment. Then she spoke again, slower this time. The word sounded like Javara, but with clicks and tones his throat couldn't reproduce. Jake tried anyway and failed miserably. She made a sound that might have been a weak laugh. "Vera," Jake said, simplifying it. "I'll call you Vera. Is that okay?" She seemed to understand his tone, if not his words. She gave a small nod, then winced from the pain it caused. Jake quickly checked her injuries. Everything looked good, but she needed rest. Over the next week, Jake cared for Vera. He brought her water and food, though she could only manage small amounts at first. He helped her sit up, then eventually stand. Her strength returned gradually. She watched him constantly with those golden eyes, studying his every move. Jake tried to communicate. He showed her pictures and acted out meanings. Vera did the same, teaching him words from her language. They made progress slowly. She told him, through gestures and broken phrases, that her ship was attacked. She was a warrior. She had been running from enemies. Jake didn't ask too many questions. She was injured and far from home. That was enough reason to help. He wondered about her people and where she came from, but those details could wait. For now, his job was simple. Help her heal. What Jake didn't know was that he had just saved the life of the most dangerous warrior in the galaxy, and that decision would change everything. 2 weeks passed since the crash. Vera grew stronger each day. She could walk now without help, though she still moved carefully. Her wounds had healed remarkably fast, leaving thin silver scars on her violet skin. Jake was amazed by her recovery speed. A human with similar injuries would need months, but Vera seemed ready to fight again in just days. The language barrier was breaking down. Jake had rigged up a translation device from his computer, feeding it recordings of Vera's speech. It wasn't perfect, but they could have simple conversations now. Vera told him more about herself, though Jake noticed she left out important details. She said she was a soldier from a distant system. Her people were called the Jaltiri. She had been traveling on a diplomatic mission when her ship was ambushed by enemies called the Kreth. They destroyed her escort and nearly killed her. She managed to escape through a warp jump, but her ship was too damaged. It fell apart in orbit and she crashed here. Jake accepted this story. It made sense. Soldiers had enemies. He didn't need to know everything. What mattered was that she was getting better and would soon be able to leave. Though he found himself not wanting her to go quite yet. Vera was interesting company, and his station was usually very quiet. Vera seemed equally curious about him. She asked questions about humans, about Earth, about why he lived alone so far from other people. Jake explained that he liked helping others and didn't need much company. He had been a military medic before coming to Haven's Edge. After seeing too much war, he wanted peace and a simple life. Vera looked at him strangely when he said this. "You are warrior," she said through the translator. "But you choose peace?" "I'm not a warrior anymore," Jake replied. "I'm a doctor. I fix people, not fight them." This concept seemed to puzzle her. In her world, warriors stayed warriors. Jake learned that Vera's entire culture was built around military strength and honor. Yet here she was, being cared for by someone who had walked away from fighting. They fell into a routine. Jake would work during the day, treating the occasional colonist who made the trip to his station. Vera would rest and practice moving around. In the evenings, they would eat together. Jake cooked simple meals from his supplies, and Vera ate everything he offered, even foods that were completely new to her. One night, Jake made a joke while cooking. It was a terrible pun about vegetables. Vera stared at him blankly for a moment. Then the translator processed it. She made a sound like a snort, her golden eyes brightening. It was the first time Jake had seen her truly smile. "Your humor is broken," she said, but she was still smiling. "Yeah, I get that a lot," Jake admitted, grinning back. After that, the atmosphere between them changed. Vera seemed more relaxed. She started helping around the station, organizing supplies and cleaning equipment. Jake noticed she was incredibly precise and efficient in everything she did. Even simple tasks were performed with almost military perfection. Sometimes Jake caught her watching him treat patients. She seemed fascinated by his gentleness, by how he talked to people and calmed their fears. Once, after a colonist left, Vera asked him why he spent so much time making people comfortable. "Pain is bad enough without fear added to it," Jake explained. "If I can make them feel safe, the treatment works better. Body and mind are connected." Vera nodded slowly. "Your people understand this. Mine do not. Not in same way. We endure pain. We do not comfort." "That sounds lonely," Jake said. Vera didn't respond, but something in her expression made Jake think he had touched on a truth she didn't often acknowledge. At night, Vera sometimes had nightmares. Jake would wake to hear her speaking urgently in her language, words too fast for the translator to catch. He learned not to touch her during these episodes. The one time he tried to shake her awake, she had him pinned to the floor before her eyes fully opened. She released him immediately, apologizing profusely, but Jake understood. She was a soldier. Instincts ran deep. During the day, Vera would go outside and practice. Jake watched from the window as she moved through combat forms. Even recovering from injuries, her movements were beautiful and deadly. She was fast, impossibly fast. Her strikes would flow from one to the next like water. Jake had never seen anything like it. One afternoon, Jake found Vera examining her damaged armor. She ran her fingers over the cracks and broken pieces, her expression sad. "Can you fix it?" Jake asked. "No, this armor was gift. Very old, very precious. Cannot be repaired with tools here." She looked up at him. "But without your help, I would be dead. Armor can be replaced. Life cannot." Jake felt embarrassed by her intensity. "I just did what anyone would do." "No," Vera said firmly. "Not anyone. Most beings would fear stranger, would not help. You risked danger to save someone you did not know. This is—" She struggled for the word, "exceptional." "It's just being human," Jake said with a shrug. Vera studied him for a long moment. "Perhaps. Or perhaps you are exceptional human." As the third week began, Jake noticed Vera becoming restless. She would stare at the sky often, watching the stars. She was healing well now, almost back to full strength. Soon she would need to leave, to find her people or get off this planet somehow. Jake tried not to think about it. He had grown used to her presence. The station felt less lonely with her there, but he knew she had a life elsewhere, responsibilities and people waiting for her. He was just a brief stop in her journey. One evening, as they ate dinner, Vera suddenly spoke. "Jake Morrison, I must tell you truth about something." Jake looked up, concerned by her serious tone. "What's wrong?" Before she could answer, the communication console beeped urgently. Jake went to check it. The screen showed an emergency message from the colony's main settlement. His face went pale as he read it. "What is wrong?" Vera asked, standing quickly. Jake turned to her, his expression grim. "There are warships in orbit. 3 of them. They're looking for an alien who crashed here 2 weeks ago." He paused. "Vera, are they looking for you?" Vera's golden eyes darkened. Her whole body tensed like a coiled spring. "Yes," she said quietly. "They are Kreth. And they have come to finish what they started." The communication console beeped again. Jake answered it. A woman's face appeared on the screen. She looked stressed and frightened. It was Amy Parker, the colony administrator. "Jake, thank God you answered," Amy said quickly. "We have a situation. There are 3 alien warships in orbit. They claim they're hunting a war criminal who crashed here. They're demanding we hand her over or they'll start destroying buildings. Do you know anything about this?" Did you find anyone at that crash site? Jake's mind raced. He looked at Vera, who stood perfectly still, listening. Her hand had moved unconsciously to her side where her weapons would normally be. But her weapons were locked in Jake's storage cabinet. I found the crash site, Jake said carefully. But there was no one alive. Just wreckage. Amy's expression showed relief, mixed with worry. Are you sure? These aliens are serious, Jake. Their commander says this criminal killed hundreds of their people. They're not leaving without her. I'm sure, Jake lied. The site was empty except for debris. Whoever was flying that ship didn't survive. Amy nodded slowly. Okay, I'll tell them that. But they're sending search teams down anyway. If you see anything suspicious, contact me immediately. These people are dangerous. The screen went dark. Jake turned to Vera. You need to tell me the truth. All of it. What did you really do? Vera was silent for a moment. Then she spoke, her words heavy. There was a transport ship. Civilians, families. The Kreth attacked it for no reason except cruelty. I was nearby. I intervened. I destroyed 3 Kreth warships and killed their crews. I saved 200 innocent lives. She met his eyes. The Kreth do not forgive such insults. They have hunted me since. So you're not a war criminal, Jake said. You stopped a massacre. To them I am criminal. To others I am hero. Truth depends on who tells story. Vera moved toward the window, looking out at the darkening sky. You should give me to them, Jake Morrison. Your people will be safe. No, Jake said immediately. That's not happening. They will hurt your people to find me. Then we hide you better. Jake thought quickly. I have a shelter under this building. It was built as a storm refuge, but it's well concealed. You can stay there until they leave. And if they do not leave? We'll figure it out. Jake grabbed supplies from his medical bay. Come on, we need to move now. Vera followed him to a floor panel in the corner. Jake pulled it open, revealing a ladder leading down into darkness. The shelter below was small but comfortable, with basic supplies and air circulation. Vera climbed down, and Jake closed the panel above her, disguising it with a storage crate. 2 hours later, Jake heard vehicles approaching. He was sitting at his desk trying to look calm and normal. The door burst open without warning. 6 alien soldiers entered, their weapons raised. They were tall and muscular, with gray-scaled skin and black eyes. Their armor was heavy and intimidating. The leader stepped forward. He looked around the small station with disgust. "Human," he said in perfect English. "I am Commander Voss of the Kreth Dominion. We are searching for a dangerous fugitive. You will cooperate." "Of course," Jake said, keeping his voice steady. "But I already told the colony administrator I haven't seen anyone." "You found the crash site," Voss stated. It wasn't a question. "Yes. There was wreckage but no survivors. Just debris." Voss moved closer, studying Jake's face. "You are lying. We detected life signs in this area after the crash. Where is she?" "I don't know what you detected, but I was the only one at that site. Maybe your equipment was wrong." One of the Kreth soldiers began searching the station, knocking over equipment and supplies. Jake wanted to protest, but stayed silent. They tore through his medical bay, his living quarters, every room. But they didn't find the hidden shelter. Voss turned back to Jake, his expression dark. "This fugitive is called Javara. She is a murderer and terrorist. She has killed thousands of Kreth warriors. If you are hiding her, you are protecting a monster." "I'm not hiding anyone," Jake insisted. "I'm a doctor. I save lives. I don't protect killers." "Then you will not mind if we execute you as an example," Voss said casually. He pulled out a weapon, pointing it at Jake's head. "Perhaps your death will convince other colonists to be more helpful." Jake's heart pounded, but he didn't move. "Killing me won't help you find anyone. It'll just make you murderers too." Voss laughed, a harsh sound. Humans are so naive. In the galaxy, only strength matters. Your weakness is why you are not important. No one will care if one colonist dies. Jake closed his eyes, preparing for the end. He heard the weapon power up. Then he heard something else. The sound of the floor panel being thrown aside, the sound of someone moving impossibly fast. Jake opened his eyes in time to see Vera emerge from below. Even weakened, even without her armor, she was terrifying. She moved like lightning, striking the first soldier before he could react. Her fist connected with his helmet and he fell. The second soldier fired his weapon, but Vera was already elsewhere, flowing around the shot like water. She grabbed the soldier's arm and twisted. There was a crack, and the soldier screamed. Vera took his weapon and used it to strike the next soldier. Within seconds, 4 soldiers were down. Only Voss and one other remained standing. Voss stared at her in shock. "It cannot be. You are injured. You should be weak." "I am weak," Vera said coldly. "But even weak, I am more than you can handle." The last soldier tried to run. Vera threw the weapon like a spear, hitting him in the leg. He fell. Voss raised his own weapon, but Vera was too fast. She closed the distance and disarmed him with a single motion. She held him by the throat, lifting him off the ground. "You came to my galaxy," she said, her voice deadly quiet. "You attacked innocent people, and then you hunted me to this peaceful world." She tightened her grip. "You made a mistake, Voss." Then her strength failed. The fight had taken everything she had. Her wounds had reopened, and silver-blue blood was flowing down her side. She dropped Voss and stumbled. Jake rushed forward, catching her before she fell. Voss, gasping on the floor, stared at her with sudden recognition and terror. His voice was barely a whisper. "The Dread Queen. It is really you. We are all dead." Vera collapsed against Jake, unconscious. Around them, the Kreth soldiers groaned in pain. Jake looked down at the woman in his arms, his mind spinning. Dread Queen? What had he gotten himself into? Above them, in orbit, the 3 Kreth warships prepared to bombard the colony. They had lost contact with their ground team, and they were ready to make everyone pay. Jake worked quickly to stop Vera's bleeding. Her wounds had reopened during the fight, and she had lost too much blood. He carried her back to the examination table and began stitching the torn tissue. Around him, the Kreth soldiers remained where they fell, groaning in pain but unable to move. Vera had broken bones and damaged muscles with frightening precision. Voss sat against the wall, clutching his throat where Vera had grabbed him. He watched Jake work with a mixture of fear and confusion. "You truly do not know who she is," he said, his voice hoarse. "I know her name is Vera," Jake said, not looking up from his work. "I know she saved innocent people from you. That's enough." Voss laughed bitterly. "Vera, she gave you a false name. That is Javara the Unconquered, Supreme War Queen of the Zhaltiri Empire. She rules over 2,000 star systems. She commands fleets that could destroy entire planets. And she has never lost a battle in 300 years. Jake's hands paused for just a moment. 300 years? That's impossible. She doesn't look older than 30. Her species lives much longer than yours, human. Javara has fought in more wars than your planet has seen. She is called the Dread Queen because her enemies fear even speaking her name." Voss coughed. "And you stitched her wounds like she was nobody." Jake continued working, though his mind was reeling. A queen? The most powerful warrior in the galaxy? He thought about the past 3 weeks. She had eaten his simple food. She had laughed at his bad jokes. She had helped him organize medical supplies. None of that fit with being some terrifying queen. "If she's so powerful, why did you attack her?" Jake asked. "The Kreth Dominion grows tired of Zhaltiri dominance. We thought if we killed their queen, their empire would collapse into civil war. We could claim new territory, gain power." Voss shook his head. "But we failed. We only wounded her. And now, when her fleets find out what we did, They will erase the Kreth from existence. So you came here to finish the job and blame humans for her death, Jake realized. Yes, a perfect plan. Voss looked at Vera's unconscious form. Except we did not expect her to survive this long, or to find a human foolish enough to protect her. Jake finished the stitching and cleaned his hands. I'm not foolish. I helped someone who needed it. That's called being decent. Decent, Voss repeated, as if the word was foreign. In the galaxy, decent beings die first. Before Jake could respond, the communication console activated again. Amy's face appeared, but she looked terrified now. Jake, the Kreth ships are preparing to fire on the colony. They say since we harbored their criminal, we're all guilty. They're going to kill everyone. We have 5,000 people here, Jake. Families, children. What do we do? Jake's blood went cold. He looked at the unconscious Vera, then at Voss. Call them off. Now. No, Voss said simply. My people do not leave witnesses. Your colony dies as an example to others. Jake wanted to hit him. Instead, he turned to Amy. Get everyone to the shelters now. I'm going to try something. What can you possibly do? Amy asked desperately. I'm going to wake a queen, Jake said, and ended the transmission. He went to Vera and gently shook her shoulder. Vera, Javara, whatever your name is, I need you to wake up. People are going to die. Her golden eyes opened slowly. She looked weak and in pain, but conscious. Jake, she whispered, I am sorry. I should have told you truth. We can talk about that later. Right now, the Kreth are about to destroy the colony. Can you stop them? Javara tried to sit up and failed. I am too weak. Cannot fight ships from here. You don't need to fight. You need to talk to them. Jake helped her into a sitting position. Voss said you're the most powerful queen in the galaxy, so act like it. Tell them to leave. They will not listen. They are committed to this attack. Then call for help. You're a queen. You must have people looking for you. Javara's eyes widened slightly. My beacon. In the crash. It was damaged, but perhaps... She looked at Jake. Take me to wreckage. Now. Jake didn't hesitate. He picked her up, carried her to his vehicle, and drove toward the crash site. Behind them, Voss shouted warnings that they ignored. The journey took 15 minutes. When they arrived, the wreckage was still scattered across the ground, rusting in the weather. Javara directed him to a piece of twisted metal. She pressed her hand against it, and symbols glowed faintly. Emergency code. Will broadcast my location and status. She entered a sequence, her fingers moving quickly despite her weakness. Done. But will take time for fleet to arrive, maybe hours. The colony doesn't have hours, Jake said. We need to stall them. Then I will speak to them. Javara pulled out a small device from her belt. It had survived the crash intact. She activated it and spoke in her language, her voice commanding despite her condition. A moment later, a response came. The voice was harsh and angry. Javara replied, and Jake heard his name mentioned. The conversation went back and forth for several minutes. Finally, Javara lowered the device. I told them who I am. I provided my royal codes and identification. They confirmed it. She looked at Jake. They do not believe I am really here. They think it is a trick. Show them. Use video. Javara activated the device's visual feed. She held it up so the Kreth could see her face. There was silence for a long moment. Then the harsh voice returned, speaking rapidly. Even without understanding the language, Jake could hear the fear in it. They believe now, Javara said, but they say they are too committed. They cannot return to their people with failure. They will destroy colony anyway and claim they killed me in the process. That's insane, Jake protested. That is war. Javara closed her eyes. I am sorry, Jake Morrison. I brought death to your world. This is my fault. Jake looked at her. This powerful queen who suddenly seemed very small and tired. Then he looked at the sky where, somewhere above, warships prepared to commit murder. His people were down there, innocent people who had done nothing wrong. No, Jake said firmly. This isn't your fault, and it's not over yet. He picked up Javara's communication device. He didn't know the language, but he spoke anyway, hoping they would understand his tone if nothing else. Listen to me, Kreth. I'm the human who saved your queen, the one you threatened to kill. Your commander called humans weak. He said we don't matter. But I'm telling you right now, if you hurt my people, you'll regret it. Because this queen, she's going to recover. And when she does, she's going to remember that humans protected her while you tried to murder her. Who do you think she'll favor? Who do you think her empire will ally with? There was silence. Jake didn't know if they understood or cared, but he had to try. Then, from somewhere in space, a new transmission came through. The voice was different, cold, controlled, and absolutely furious. It spoke in Javara's language, but there was no mistaking the authority behind it. Javara's eyes opened wide. "Commander Kale," she whispered, "my fleet, they are here." The sky above Haven's edge changed. One moment it was clear. The next, massive ships appeared as if from nowhere. Jake counted at least 50 warships, each one larger than the Kreth vessels. They moved into formation with perfect precision, surrounding the 3 Kreth ships like predators circling prey. Jake's communication device activated. A face appeared on the screen. The alien was male, with the same violet skin and golden eyes as Javara, but his features were sharper, harder. His expression was one of barely controlled rage. "Kreth vessels, this is Commander Kale of the Jaltiri Imperial Fleet. You will power down your weapons immediately and prepare to be boarded. You have attacked our queen. This is an act of war. Surrender now or be destroyed." The Kreth ships went dark, their weapons powered down. They knew when they were beaten. Within minutes, Jaltiri soldiers were boarding them, taking the crews into custody. The threat was over. Kale's face turned toward the camera, seeing Jake and Javara. His angry expression shifted to concern when he saw his queen's condition. "My queen, we have searched for you for 3 weeks. Your ship's distress signal was unclear. We did not know where you had gone." "I am alive, Kale, thanks to this human." Javara gestured weakly toward Jake. "He found me dying and saved my life. He asked for nothing in return." Kale's eyes studied Jake with new interest. "Then the Jaltiri owe him a great debt." He barked orders in his language. "Medical teams are coming to your location now, my queen. Please hold on." Within minutes, a shuttle landed near the crash site. Alien medical personnel rushed out with advanced equipment. They carefully took Javara from Jake's arms, scanning her injuries and talking rapidly in their language. Jake tried to follow what they were doing, but their technology was far beyond his understanding. One of the medics, a female with kind eyes, looked at Jake's stitching work and made an appreciative sound. She said something to Jake in her language, then tried again in broken English. "Good work. You saved Queen with primitive tools. Impressive." Jake watched as they carefully loaded Javara onto a medical stretcher. She reached out and caught his hand. "Come with me," she said. "Please." Jake couldn't refuse. He climbed into the shuttle with them, and they lifted off toward the largest of the warships in orbit. The view took his breath away. The Jaltiri flagship was enormous, a floating city of metal and light. They docked in a medical bay that was larger than Jake's entire station. For the next several hours, Jake watched as alien doctors worked on Javara. They used devices that healed her wounds in minutes, technology that made his medical training seem like ancient history. But they kept asking him questions about what he had done, what medications he had used, how he had kept her stable. They seemed genuinely impressed. Finally, Javara was stable and resting. Commander Kale approached Jake in the waiting area. The doctors say she will make a full recovery thanks to your early intervention. Without it, she would have died before we found her. I just did what any doctor would do, Jake said. No, Kyle said firmly. Most beings would have left her to die. Some would have tried to use her as a bargaining chip. Others would have killed her themselves for the reward the Kreth offered. You risked everything to save a stranger. He paused. Why? Jake thought about it. Because she needed help. That's reason enough. Kale studied him for a long moment. Then he did something unexpected. He bowed his head, a gesture of deep respect. The Zhaltiri Empire honors you, Jake Morrison. You will be remembered. Over the next day, Jake learned the full extent of what he had done. Javara truly was the supreme war queen, ruler of an empire that spanned a quarter of the galaxy. She had united dozens of species under her banner, creating peace through strength. Without her, the empire would likely collapse into civil war, causing the deaths of billions. The Kreth conspiracy had been more extensive than anyone thought. Multiple factions within the Dominion had plotted together to assassinate her. Now, with the conspirators in custody and evidence of their attack, the Kreth government was falling apart. They would face justice, and their military aggression would end. Jake was invited to meet with Javara once she was fully recovered. He found her in a royal chamber that was both impressive and somehow lonely. She wore new armor, elegant and decorated with symbols of her rank. But when she saw Jake, she smiled the same warm smile he remembered from his small station. "Jake Morrison," she said, gesturing for him to sit. "I owe you my life. More than that, I owe you my empire. If I had died, millions would have suffered in the wars that followed." "You don't owe me anything," Jake said. "I'm just glad you're okay." "That is exactly why I owe you everything." Javara leaned forward. "In my 300 years, I have been treated as a weapon, a symbol, a tool of power. Even those who serve me loyally do so out of duty or fear. But you saw me bleeding and broken, and you helped me simply because I needed help. You saw me as a person. That's because you are a person," Jake said. "Queen or not, you're still just someone trying to survive in a complicated galaxy." Javara's eyes shimmered with emotion. "No one has ever said such a thing to me before." She composed herself. "I want to reward you. The Zhaltiri Empire will place Haven's Edge under permanent protection. No force in the galaxy will threaten your colony again. We will share our medical technology with you. We will establish trade relationships with humanity. Because of what you did, your entire species will benefit." "That's too much," Jake protested. "I didn't do it for a reward." "I know. That is why you deserve it." Javara stood and walked to a window showing the stars. "I also offer you a position as my personal physician and ambassador. You would travel with me, see wonders across the galaxy, help shape the future of multiple civilizations." Jake thought about it. The offer was tempting. But then he thought about his small station, about the colonists who depended on him, about the simple life he had chosen. "I'm honored," he said carefully, "but I think I need to stay on Haven's Edge. People there need a doctor. And honestly, I like my quiet life." Javara turned to him, and for a moment she looked sad. Then she nodded with understanding. "Of course. You are where you choose to be, doing what you love. I respect that." She pulled out a small device. "Then take this. It is a direct communication link to me anywhere in the galaxy. If you ever need anything, if your colony faces any danger, if you simply wish to talk, use it. The Zhaltiri Empire will answer." Jake took the device, feeling its weight in his hand. "Thank you, Javara, for everything." "No, Jake Morrison. Thank you." She placed her hand over her heart in a gesture he recognized as one of deep respect in her culture. "You taught me something important. In a galaxy built on power and strength, sometimes the greatest strength is simple kindness. I will not forget that lesson. They said their goodbyes. Jake was taken back to Haven's Edge on a royal shuttle. When he arrived, the entire colony had gathered. Amy Parker rushed forward, tears in her eyes. "Jake, you're alive! We heard you went up to the alien ships. Everyone thought you were going to be killed." "I'm fine," Jake assured her. "And the danger is over. Those ships up there are friendly now. They're going to protect us." The colonists cheered. They wanted to hear the whole story. Jake told them a simplified version, leaving out some of the more incredible details. He just said he helped an injured alien, and she turned out to be important. That was enough. Over the following months, Haven's Edge transformed. The Jaltiri shared technology that improved farming, medicine, and energy production. Trade ships began arriving, bringing goods and knowledge from across the galaxy. The small colony became a hub of human-alien interaction. But Jake's life remained mostly the same. He ran his aid station, treating the sick and injured. He kept the device Javara gave him on his desk. Sometimes it would activate, and he would have brief conversations with the Queen. She would tell him about peace negotiations, about worlds she was visiting, about the challenges of ruling an empire. He would tell her about the colonists, about simple medical cases, about the weather. One day, a young colonist came to Jake's station with a broken arm. While Jake set the bone, the boy asked, "Is it true you saved an alien queen?" "I helped someone who was hurt," Jake replied, wrapping the cast. "That's all. But people say she was the most powerful warrior in the galaxy." Jake smiled. "Maybe. But when I met her, she was just someone who needed a doctor. And that's what mattered." The boy thought about this. "So anyone can be a hero? Just by helping people?" "That's exactly right," Jake said. "Being a hero isn't about fighting or being strong. It's about doing the right thing, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard." That night, Jake sat outside his station, looking up at the stars. Somewhere out there, Javara was leading her empire, making decisions that affected billions of lives. But she had started her journey back to power in his small station, being cared for by someone who simply refused to let a stranger die. Jake thought about the chain of events. One act of kindness had prevented a war, saved an empire, and brought humanity into the galactic community. Not through weapons or threats, but through compassion. He smiled. Maybe humans did have something special to offer the galaxy after all. Not advanced technology or military might, but something simpler and rarer. The willingness to help others, expecting nothing in return. In the sky above, the Jaltiri ships kept their silent watch, a reminder that sometimes the smallest gesture could change everything. And in a small aid station on a frontier colony, a human doctor continued his work, proving every day that being ordinary could be extraordinary, because that's what humans do. They help.